Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Sorry for the little delay. We suffered from the hall in Tolocna, which delayed some of the people that must talk tonight. Sorry about this. Welcome to the 27th edition of Geneva International Film Festival. This night will be held in English, and this special night is co-hosted with the HEAD, it's the University of Arts and Design in Geneva. It's a very precious partner of the festival. We collaborate on several grounds with the university. We have panels, ateliers with the Department of Cinema, with several film directors and directors that attend the festival, but also with the interaction design section. And it's nice to mention that tonight's trophy is a vase. It's a flower vase that was created by an alumni of the university. We will give out tonight the Geneva Award. As many of you may say or may not say, it's my first edition in this festival, and this award is the most important moment in a way for the festival, and it was really important to me. I was really anxious and emotional to give it to someone that I like and someone that fits the vision we're trying to develop within this festival. So I was really happy that Luca Guadagnino accepted, because he has a very inclusive and creative and innovative vision of cinema. I don't want to develop too much, because as soon as he's here, we will get into his creative world in the frame of a masterclass. But it's really important to stress that he has a very interesting career in terms of inclusivity, because he's been shooting and directing short films, feature films, documentaries, films that goes towards the horror genres, and is really taking all the potential of cinema to tell us stories. For me, he's one of the greatest storytellers of modern cinema, and is also obviously screenwriter and producer. And this is something which is really important to me and for the festival, because he more recently directed a series, great series called We Are Who We Are, that we are screening tomorrow at Le Cinéma de Grutli. You are all welcome to watch this special moment that will be introduced by the director of Le Cinéma de Grutli, Paolo Moretti, which is also the director of the film, of the Directors Fortnight in Cannes. But enough blah blah. Now I will call Luca Guadagnino on stage, and please welcome him with a very, very warm applause. Luca Guadagnino, please. Welcome.
Hello. Hi. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. I collect vases. And I never keep awards. Whatever award I got in my life, I keep them in a shelf. But this is going to be exposed. It's very beautiful.
It's beautiful, yes.
Yes.
I'm trying to... Because
Merci for
so the artist, sorry for this, she's called Shizuka Saito, and she's really talented.
She's great. It's a beautiful piece. Thank you.
Thank you for her. Thank you for the festival.
I'm a bit shy, sorry.
So, obviously, with the vase here is your seat.
I think I should keep it, right?
If you want, okay, because we said maybe it's complicated for the photos. Yeah, we like to challenge social convention.
Oh, Paolo. Ciao, Paolo.
So we will welcome on stage another friend, Jonah Nazaro, which is now the director of the Locarno Film Festival, but is also critic, author, and very precious. So you should be here. So welcome, Jonah, welcome, Luca, and let's get to work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anaïs.
See you.
Welcome. It's a huge privilege to be here, and thanks Anais for the invitation. This is a great moment because we're here to celebrate cinema, and for as long that I've known Luca Guadagnino, and I can say it goes now a couple of years back, just a couple, not that many. He was always one of the most ardent and passionate cinephiles ever. And what struck me was always the clarity of his vision. When he was just studying cinema and we were attending university and sharing ideas and loves and things that we didn't love that much and so on, Luca had always a clear vision. One was, one day I'm gonna make a remake of Suspiria. And I have to tell you that as much as I used to love him, and I love him a lot, I was thinking, oh, sometimes this guy can be really delusional. But you would love him even more. And then he would say, one day I will make a film, it will be called I Am Love. And I said, oh, this sounds nice. It has this Visconti ring to it. And imagine my face when, after the first shorts that he made, he was true to his word. And the films kept coming one after the other, exactly the way he spoke to me about when he was not making films. So that was right then and there an extremely valuable lesson. You need to know what you want to do. And you can know what you want to do even when you don't have the means yet of doing the things that you want to do, when you don't have the means yet to make your dreams cinematic reality. And that, for me, has been really something crucial, because when we speak of someone being an auteur, this word has gotten a bit stale. Nowadays, everybody is an auteur. For me, an auteur is someone that is capable to nurture his projects through thick and thin, through times when times are good, when times are not that good, but keep a clear vision of what he wants to do. And that for me has been extremely important. And since you are going tonight to experience the new version of We Are Who We Are, and when I was this big debate that was always like a phony debate, like, oh, series are nowadays cinema is dead, the series are the new thing. Luca was always saying, I'm not convinced, but he used to tell me, one day I'm going to do something that will show you what I think that we can do with this format. And it's this accuracy in putting his idea in images, in movement, that mean a lot to a lot of people in the whole world. And I know this sounds like more like a groupie speech than a critical assessment of his work, but I just try to express with the simple words possible my deep admiration for the achievements of a true master of the form. Nowadays in Luca's cinema you can see the lesson of Brian De Palma, you can see the lesson of Dario Argento, you can see the lesson of Michael Mann, but filtered to a unique personality, something that has been a nurture to his deep and absolute cinephilia. And Luca is more than a filmmaker. Luca is a place where different expressions, of possibilities, of keep on dreaming cinema become possible. And this is why he is so unique today, because he never repeats himself, and yet every film of his is unique and unmistakably his. So this is just a couple of things that I wanted to say, but there is another aspect that people maybe are not so aware about. You are Algerian, and you lots of time you insisted on how this being so-called not Italian but Algerian but African has shaped your idea of your cinematic vision. So I would really like to ask you to comment on that, on your Algerian origins, on your being.
Well, I think that the moment in which I started to make my first steps into the industry of Italian cinema was around mid-90s, and I had the chances to meet some protagonists of that industry earlier when I moved from Palermo to Rome, and having had the opportunity to have a close relationship with Bertolucci, for instance, I though understood immediately that there was something clearly suffocating about Italian cinema and Italian industry of culture that somehow reflected what I harshly believed was a sense of inbreed. So I was quite proud of my opposite nature, of someone who had a lot of interactions, like with different cultures and with different DNAs, because I'm half Italian, half Algerian. I grew up in Ethiopia, so I'm more African than Italian first to start with. And that's not cultural appropriation. I'm really Algerian, and I grew up for 6 years in Ethiopia. And this gave me also the possibility to see things from far, in a way, internally far, and somehow to spot what were the deficits, the defects of a system of production and a system of thought that somehow I kind of not wanted to be part of. So in a way that saved me, because it made me be able to conceive a sense of myself and a sense of what I wanted to do that could be seen as a little bit more risky and wide and far-reaching than being within the boundaries of the industry. And I think that belongs mostly to my identity as a person.
When you started out making films, you just recalled mid-90s Italy. The Italian industry was rather in a bad shape, not like today where we can argue, but it was really...
I will not argue, because in the meantime I became a wise person, so I'm not going to step into that.
No, I'm not asking you to, but I want you to recall what it was to come in a moment to start thinking to make your own films in a moment where the Italian industry was maybe at one of its lowest points ever. Whatever was left of productive industry was gone. The studios were overtaken by TV sets, and whatever was left of heritage about movie making, the culture of the people working on sets was completely gone. It seemed that we at that point, Italy did not have a cinematic voice anymore, that it would never come back. So what do you recall from that specific moment?
Well, I recall a great something that was for me I considered it a great transgression in negative transgression or sin, which was a lack of sense of the form. there was a sort of taking over toward the most plain idea of a visual image in the industry of cinema. Yeah, that was the thing that I recall the most.
And it's not by any chance that you, even when you did Melissa P, your very first film, you started.
Actually, no, that's not my first film.
Well, I know all the other, but that was one of the first time that the general audience got.
True.
And you worked inside that film that was taken from a very successful book at the time, blah, blah, blah. And still you managed to weave into it some homages to some directors that you worshipped and you still worship. Would you
that was a bit childish of me. But
yes, but that's what...
I think, that was an attempt and was not very successful in terms of expression of self. That movie is an interesting movie because it taught me very, very much. I've been approached to direct it, so this is something that I kept doing afterwards. Like, I am not squeamish about making films that I am offered to. I do not believe that the authorship lies in the fact that you write your own scripts. I actually think it's more strong to be able to have something in your hands that you then control completely, like a script from someone else. And in that case, I've been given the book that I had never read, till today still. But and not because I'm a snob, but because I tried to read it and I couldn't process the language. It wasn't interesting to me. And but I knew this topic. So with my writers, we started to fantasize about the topic. And that was a great experience. But then when the movie got made, it got made through a studio because it was financed by Sony Europe. And that was another memento of what was going to come later for me. But I didn't know how to manage this thing. My script, this idea of being offered a movie from a famous novel, dealing with Americans, making a movie that was supposed to be Italian, but with some sort of American agenda behind it. So, there are many trappings that eventually didn't come to fruition. But it was interesting because, you learn from a lot of mistakes or missteps or incapacity of seeing what you want to do. Definitely the idea of using a movie to showcase your knowledge of cinema or your idea of cinema in terms of quoting other filmmakers, it's something that I hope I overcome.
Yes, of course, but that was still a bold move at the time. I mean, it was like declaring where your heart was, like in what you... And as you said, you have outgrown this. But the idea of the form being the very soul of the process filmmaking, this is something that is very crucial to your process of working and thinking. So when you, let's say, they offer you some material, do you approach it in terms of what the possibilities could be in transforming that material, or because you like to be pushed in a direction in which you would not necessarily go? And
I think it's both things. And it's also the fact that unconsciously I pick things that I know that they make, that I unconsciously know that are interesting to me. I realize that now because I did a movie in the American Midwest in the summer called Bones and All, and someone close to me made me realize that there was a thread that even if the movie was completely texture-wise different from anything I did so far, like very different, still there is a thread that unifies the way in which characters behave or the position these characters has in reality or society. So that's something. That's the first reason. The second reason is to be put in a place where you are not comfortable. I like to be uncomfortable, because I think when you are uncomfortable, you kind of are responsible for making sure that you really commit to that thing without being lazy about it. I look always for things that are not that I do not immediately would do or would not go in these places, for instance. Yeah.
The overall approach that you have is, it seems that you master every moment of the creation of your film. For instance,
That's my mother.
The actors, the casting, the fabric of the costume, all this incredibly tiny details, as we have seen also in We Are coming from the books. I mean, there's a whole landscape of signs.
First of all, that's fun. I mean, when you make a movie and you can really play with all these toys and tools, that's wonderful, right? And that's what I don't understand when I don't see that kind of curiosity of my colleagues sometimes toward that. It's beautiful because it's like really playing a game. And then you play game with other companions who are you're playing games with, like the costume designer, the gaffer, the director of photography. So that's the craft for me. It's both an enjoyment and a pleasure, and also honestly, it's something you must do, because like this is an art that is based on craftsmanship, and there is no way around it. It is like that from every angle. And if you forget that, you forget the reason why these movies are made. It's about a mysterious language that showcases an insight toward whatever you want to have an insight of through the perspective of an image, juxtaposed to another image, to another image, to another image. And it's all about the creation of a world that doesn't exist before, or stealing from the real world and bringing to that fake world what you can get from the reality. The best way, it was Bertolucci who said it. You do a movie about the character, you make a movie about characters and place and text and spaces, but at the same time you make a documentary on your actors making those characters. So it's unique. And to forget that and to assume that is in a way a vanity or is a research for a beautiful image for the sake of it, it's a mistake, and it's a sort of misunderstanding. But of course, because of the the 80s were really significant, and the 80s brought us in the bad and in the good sense, like for instance the triumph of the commercial image, which is the music video image or the advertisement image. And so that in a way has become considered similar to the concept of form in cinema, but that's not exactly what it is. Sometimes you have filmmakers who are wonderful directors of commercial image, like Ridley Scott, who are also great author and great directors of cinema. But more often that crossover doesn't work, and so it's mistaken.
And it's not because I want to pay you some extra compliments, but when you did your commercials, you did exactly the opposite. You brought the cinema structures inside the commercials that you did for Armani and other people. It seems that you went exactly the opposite, where some directors try to put the synthetic force, the force of the commercial image into cinema, as Ridley Scott
As
did.
far as I'm not doing the other way around, I'm happy.
Yeah, that's what I tried to say. I mean, also the way
I must say to our friends in Geneva that 99% of the directors in the world makes advertisement, because if you are a filmmaker, you own another job, which is the director of commercials. you can.
Okay.
But those are two different jobs.
But still, there's a different way of making also interesting commercials.
Possibly, yes, of course.
And
Spike Jonze is a magnificent director of commercials.
and clips and stuff. And
Yeah, I mean, amazing.
The other element, what I get always from your film, when the first time I see them, is this idea that there is a sensual idea. I mean, there's a sensual symphony behind the symphony. Like you are working on all the elements at your that you have at on your palette in order to create something that is viscerally compelling. So you approach political issues, but you do that with the tools of a filmmaker, music, colors, fabric, and images. And I really have the idea when I see your films that you really somehow it feels as if you are considering das Gesamtkunstwerk, as the German would say. I mean, the overall work of art, the total work of art. For instance, when I saw Suspiria, I didn't think it was a remake. I thought that was the idea that you always had of that film, and you wanted it to bring to life that secret image of that masterpiece.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's for sure. Because when I saw the movie by Dario, I was shocked, and in growing up, I started to also come back to Dario's movie from other perspectives I was going to learn throughout my upbringing. You know, for instance, you discover the work of Luisa Muraro, the feminism of the difference, and you think of Suspiria, the idea of the evil woman in Dario Argento, which is in a way archetypical of the fairy tales. And then you read these great books of Muraro, and then you understand that those books written in the same period in which Dario and Daria were doing their movie, what's the relationship between the two, or why the absence of one into the world of the other, you know? So I started to think that way. So I think my Suspiria is in a way triggered by Dario Argento and Daria Nicolodi's Suspiria, because truthfully that is like as much as Dario Argento's is Daria Nicolodi's movie, because that was triggered by her. She was the one who brought the book Mine Hana, The Education of Girls, by Wedekind to Dario Argento. She wrote the script. She was the person that was really into this idea of the girls and the women. As far as the Profondo Rosso is Dario and Gaslini movie. But also I felt like there was a kindness in Dario Argento's movie, with something about an approach that was almost for children, that I thought those 1977 in that place wasn't. So in a way, I felt it needed to have back some sort of sharpness and hardness that was missing from Dario's movie. So it's in a way, Dario Argento is a trigger of a process. Of course, it could be told that why don't you title in another way? But I think the title Suspiria is so beautiful and evocative, and it's like cinematic in itself, because it evokes a sound as much as it evokes an image.
And the way you speak about Dario Argento brings me to something that we were discussing some time ago, that you approach also your film process still as a film critic, because you wrote also film critics. And when you were talking about Dario Argento, you were really thinking like a film critic. So is filmmaking really another way of making film critics?
Certainly the way in which I understood cinema in growing up. Yeah, because I'm an old-fashioned scholar of the Nouvelle Vagues. So that's my real standpoint here. So I do believe in that completely. I don't believe that is the approach that all filmmakers should have or have had or have, but that's mine. Because, like cinema is a door to interpreting reality, or even more, it's a sort of like door to another door that is opening to reality. There is a sort of second degree thing. And so if you are not, if I do not reflect on that, if I don't reflect on the system of image and imageries that are preceding me, I don't know how to approach this. But that's me.
What do you think of something that Dreyer said, that reality needs to obey the aesthetic command of the director?
It's true, and that's like the curse of any filmmakers, of course, because if you have the absolute powers to do that, a la James Cameron, for instance, where you have every sense of command of a reality, you may lose what Bertolucci and Renoir were saying, to leave the door open to reality, what you don't expect. And I think that so Dreyer is right, but at the same time, it's good not to have that kind of powers.
In your TV series, you paid homage to a French director that normally is not associated with your cinematic constellation. I'm talking of Maurice Pialat, who became Maurizio Pialati. So what is your relationship to the cinema of someone like...
The show is set in a military base in Veneto, and we had to name the base, and we named to the general Maurizio Pialati. Yes.
So what is that?
And I worked with 4 different director of photography because of the length of the shoot, and then at a certain stage Yorick Lesseau arrived, with whom I did I Am Love, and I did Bigger Splash. He did the Clouds of Sils Maria with Assayas, and Little Women with Greta Gerwig. And Yorick came, and he was wandering through the sets, and he sees this thing and makes a picture and sends it to his friend Sylvie Pialat. And she wrote back saying, Maurice will be very happy tomorrow when I go to tell him in the cemetery. Beautiful. That's why I do movies. Those connections are something that touches me a lot.
But specifically, what is the element in Maurice Pialat's cinema that made you want to celebrate him in such a way?
I think that I became more and more interested in a cinema that is vertiginous in its invisibility. Having started with Dario Argento, who is so flatly visible, right? He is like, boom, front. And that means that when you are 14 and you see that, you are like going to be like, wow. But if you see at 14 A Nos Amours, you may even bored. But I believe that we become what we became through life and experience. So I think that the savviness and the depths and the beautiful contradictions that Pialat brings to life, always remembering that making a movie is creating a world from scratch, are so compelling, so vertiginous, that, of course, regretfully and with a little sense of melancholy, you need to leave behind you the image that impressed you with Islam in the first place and go for the more sophisticated and complicated and elaborated vision of life that someone like Pialat has been nurturing throughout his entire astonishing career. I don't think he has never made anything that was less than sublime. And I don't know if his cinema is reflected in my cinema, but what I do know is that I study his work constantly, and that I am in awe of what someone like Pialat has been able to portray on screen, both cinematically and in terms of the cunning idea of the human experience. He's close to someone that is as important to me as him, that is Roberto Fellini, for instance, right? Or even in a complete different environment and in a different scenario and in a different epoch, Jonathan Demme. Those are great humanistic filmmakers. And to make a great humanistic films, it takes so much artistry and so much sophistication and so much real commitment that I would say I would trade a sequence of An Amour for all the colors and the shocks I can get from the sensorial cinema that I grew up with when I was very young.
This is very beautifully put. And but for instance, I mean, Pialat used to be a very conflictual and adversarial person on the sets. He needed conflicts in order to attain that kind of... You seem to be in love with every moment of the process of filmmaking, which is kind of deceiving, because when it somehow...
I actually hate to shoot films. To be on set is a torture for me. But I have... It's true. I mean, Marco Costa, my wonderful editor who edited We Are at the age of 27, knows that. Like every day of the shooting, I was running to the editing room to be in the nice wombs of the darkness of the editing room without all these people around me. But I guess like Pialat was the way he was. Fine. Everybody hated him, but he was so great. One of the greatest quote is what he said when he got the Palme d'Or for Under the Southern Sun, and everyone was booing him in Cannes. He said, "If you don't love me, then I don't love you anymore." And he got the Palme d'Or and left the stage. And this is my motto. I believe in it.
Well, I'm happy that you mentioned Sous le soleil de Satan, because that is one of the very few films where a true miracle is captured on film, in my understanding.
I'd agree with you.
Okay. And there's another aspect of your filmmaking that is very crucial, the casting. You somehow managed to conjure from your actors some very incredible performances, and for us viewers, it seems that we discover those actors for the very first time. So what is the key through which you approach all the different actors that you work with? And you are not, I mean, apart from Tilda Swinton, but you work all the time with different actors, and you manage to get all the time the very best from them. So what is the key that you...
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. What I do know is that I have instincts. Every time I tried to work with actors for their names, it never happened. Never. You know, you want to work with this big actor and you follow him for a while, you talk a lot, and then you are going to make the movie with the big actor. It doesn't happen. And I feel that's because there is a reason eventually. I don't know. I think like I know what I like, and I know what I know I can do. And I also feel that the process of working with actors is always a question of trust, because actors are always in a very difficult position. Any actor is in a very complicated position, which is the position of being chosen, the position of being told, the position of being captured, stolen from. And and also the position of someone who is giving up their rights completely. Because once you've filmed the performance, that's not done for them. It's done, but it's not done for their performance, because that goes into the editing room, and there is manipulation there, and more and more and more, until it becomes something that the audience makes out what they want to make out of it. So it's like, it's a very fragile position, and that's why I admire. I would never be I would never be able to be an actor, because I would never be able to give up control, and they do give up control. So I feel the people who works for me in the majority of cases, they know that I respect their possibility of fragility, and that I do respect that, and that I do trust that. So they feel my trust, and they feel compelled to give more than maybe they would give in a different situation. Because I feel like, I don't want to talk about my last movie, but I can promise you that in this new movie I made, those people are doing things that are really wild, but with a perfect sense of the character they're portraying, without any gratuity, but just with the real commitment to what we were doing. I just shot a short film recently, and
You are kind of a workaholic in a way.
I am.
What is this short film about?
I can't say, but I was working on this, and I saw in a magazine, a fashion magazine, a picture of, it was like a fashion spread. There was this picture of this girl on a bike. Clearly, she wasn't a model. I felt it was something that we could call street casting. In fact, we called the magazine. We asked, "Do you know this woman?" And she said, "Yeah, maybe we can find the name," because it was street casting. So after a laborious process, eventually we got hold of this young woman, and we approached her, and then I cast her to play in this short film. And I can promise you that this woman is giving a performance that is so beautiful and so sublime and so real that for me, she's a great discovery. I'm sure this woman is gonna become an important actor, and that's what motivates me toward actors, because I do believe in them very much.
Did you already put her on the contract?
No, because I despise this idea that you own people.
I mean, you would just own it for a very short amount of time.
But you know what? She's under contract forever now, because her first debut is mine.
I know that you are your eyes look in very different directions. And once we were talking about making films that are very far out your own reach. So my question is, would you do, as Chloe Zhao did, a Marvel movie, Your Mother Again?
Yes, she is.
Would you do...
Marco, can you silence it? Would I do?
Would you do a Marvel tentpole or a James Bond movie, or go in a direction where they would offer you like a completely new universe?
You're a devil. You're putting me in a difficult situation. I can tell you that when I saw Spider-Man by Sam Raimi, which I salute as a masterpiece, and even the second and the third, fantastic movies. I was like, I want to do those movies. But this was back in the early 2000s, and I barely knew how to make my own movies. Imagine to do a big movie like that. I think a lot of water ran under the bridges since Tim Burton, Richard Donner, Tim Burton, and Sam Raimi, what a trifecta of masters, made comic book films, right?
You are one of the very few filmmakers, and I thank you for that calls Richard Donner a master, and I agree.
Complete master.
Absolutely.
And so chic. Have you ever seen how he was dressed? Like, amazing.
No, I mean...
there are two filmmakers that I think are the most elegant in the history of the century. Was Donner and Konchalovsky. So chic. But I feel like the idea of a comic book movie that was already a tentpole then, from like Superman, Batman Returns, Spider-Man, changed a lot. I think that though nowadays that is more like closer to a commercial image than a cinematic image. And I feel like I would not be able to contribute in any ways of me or me. I would not be able to, because I would not be probably given the possibility to do what I would like to do, like control everything. It's a matter of control. It's a different work. I am very good friend with Barbara Broccoli, which is a wonderful producer and a great woman, and also her brother Michael Wilson, and I admire them very much, and I think that they succeeded more often than not to do great Bond movies. Not always. So this means that if Barbara would call me, I would consider it properly. But I don't think she would call me.
Maybe she calls you by your name.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
But that would be great. I mean, in terms of you making a James Bond movie. I mean, this will. I mean, the very thought of it.
Barbara knows that that was.
I mean,
dream.
that very thought would keep me awake at night, thinking what you would come up with. So I think we can open the questions to the floor. So I can't see you very well from here, but if you want to ask some questions. Do I see a hand back there? Yes, please.
The straight answer is that I would continue stories that I made. I would like to do the second season of Where We Are as well. But it's not a mystery that I said many times that I wrote a new story for Call Me By Your Name, which is not for Call Me By Your Name, like for these characters. But I don't know, like life is unpredictable. We'll see.
Hello, thank you very much for this moment. My question is a little bit, maybe a little bit trivial, but in Call Me By Your Name, I was a little bit surprised, and I wonder where your idea about the pitch scene was coming from.
Well, that's not my idea. That's André Assiman idea. That's is in the book, and I honestly felt it was impossible to put on screen. It took a lot of internal struggle with myself to understand how to film that. And it's clearly an achievement of the great Timothy Chalamet that the scene works. And of the pitch, of course. And my makeup artist who created what enters in the pitch. Fernanda Perez. That was Rice.
We have a question over there.
Yeah. We Are Who We Are. I was wondering, Blood Orange, for me, it takes like, it's like a character in itself. How did that come to be? Is it because you are a fan of his music, or how did it come to be part of the show?
Well, we with Francesca Manieri and Paolo Giordano, the two writers who wrote the show, we wanted Fraser to be an agent of knowledge for Caitlin, and we kind of wanted Fraser to be this kind of like encyclopedia of things he loved that he wanted to share or impose to Caitlin. And it was important that we could seed this idea of the music that eventually was going to become the protagonist of the last part of the show from the very beginning. So we had many ideas and many thoughts, and I knew Blood Orange already, and in conversations with my collaborators, in particular Giulia Piersanti, my costume designer, she was like very adamant that I would really explore him. And so one thing led to another until the point that eventually we even, not only we gave Fraser love for Blood Orange music, and Time Will Tell became the anthem for the two kids, but we brought him on stage in reality, like he becomes a protagonist of the end of the show. And even more, we invited Dev Hines, Blood Orange, to compose some original music for the show. I love him, he's a wonderful artist. We worked together again recently on something I did in the summer. He's wonderful.
More questions, please. There.
Well, first of all, thank you for the sharing. And I would just like to ask what you were saying. I found it super interesting. Thanks. I really find it super interesting what you're saying about like the place and the characters and like putting them there and doing like a documentary of your actors doing a fiction. I find it like super interesting, and I would like to ask more precisely. I'll try to get into some point, but like when you are filming like for example dance scenes in Call Me by Your Name or A Bigger Splash, I get this feeling that I see many films where there's dancing and I don't really feel like it's, I don't know, like the natural of this like documentary part capting of the actors. And I would like to ask you if there's like, how do you approach the directing of these actors in these kind of scenes, for example?
It differs very dramatically because in A Bigger Splash, you see that the Harry Hawks performance, he always performs. He's in a sort of person, he's always heightened and he has always to fill the void he feels with something he does. And that is something we really worked hard with Ralph Fiennes, who is one of the greatest actors alive, but also a very, very prepared artist who really makes clear that he needs to really control his craft. So he worked with a choreographer for a while. And in the same movie you have Tilda Swinton, who dances the waltz in the big party in the square, and like Tilda Timothy, they bring their own sense of movement. So in both cases, in Tilda Timothy and Rafe case, but also Fabrizia Sacchi in Mundo Civilizado, the dances at the beginning of the movie, you have to be sure, or Suspiria, which is a dance movie, you have to be sure you are capturing in the right way what has been prepared or has been improvised or has been just thought of. I think there was a gentlewoman behind you.
So I watched your movie Suspiria 2 weeks ago, which I found it just incredible. And
For the first time.
Yeah, for the first time. And I didn't watch the first Suspiria movie, but it was an intention of mine because I wanted to try to watch the second movie before I watched the first one.
And then did you saw the original?
No, not yet, because I have so many movies to watch. So, but so in that movie we were talking about dancing, but you're capturing a lot of dancing scenes, and I was wondering how you put that together because it made me think of the movie Black Swan. I don't know, with Natalie Portman. I don't know if but it made me think about that movie, and I was really wondering how you managed to work with dance. Actually, do you have a personal interest with dancing, maybe, or I don't know?
Yeah, I love dance. I love contemporary dance a lot. In general, I think body that moves are fantastic to look at. I full disclosure, I'm a voyeur, so I like to look at people. I think I shouldn't have said that. I withdraw from it. Like Twitter, I haven't said that. Please. That's bad. I'm so sorry. But
You're a filmmaker.
I meant that I like to look at people when I filmed. But having said that, for Suspiria, like my real focus was to make sure that dance was not a decoration of the movie, but was a character of it, like a reason for the dynamics within the movie to exist. Because in Dario Argento movie, it's a ballet school, and in my movie is a dance academy. A dance company. So there is a big difference. And in Dario Argento's movie, you see very few moments of dance. I counted it like 2-3 minutes overall, an hour and 45 minutes, where in our movie it must be something around like 45 minutes of dance. So like I wanted to make a dance movie because dance is the language through which witchcraft crosses the space. And that's why you have that in this film. And of course, it took a lot of work, like from the choreography to, like most of the actors, except for Mia Goth and Dakota Johnson, but all the dancing people in the movie are real dancers. Okay. Gala Moody, for instance, wonderful dancer and choreographer. She plays a character in the movie, and all of them. Yelena Fokina, who plays who she plays? Oh my God, Olga. Sorry, she plays Olga, the woman who gets banned into pieces by Dakota's performance, by Susie's performance. She's a great dancer and a great actor as well. So, like, I want to make a dance movie, which doesn't mean that I did it. I'd love to make more and more dance movies. It's beautiful to portray dance.
And I had a second question. I was wondering why you chose to work with Tom York, because it was the ex-lead singer of Radiohead, and I was wondering why you got interested.
I think Radiohead are still together.
Yeah, I don't know.
They are.
Sorry.
They are together. They are alive and kicking. Well, I mean, honestly, the answer is obvious. Like, he's such a great artist, and
his universe is fitting well.
I feel like, why not? I mean, of course. I mean, I pursued Tom for a long while, and eventually convinced him. I think he did an incredible job.
Yeah, I agree. And how did he accept to work on? Yeah, sorry.
I told you, with a lot of convincing.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a question here.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
So on the same notes about the dancing, and this is a pattern that we follow at your movies, and it's really nice. And especially even at the We Are Who We Are, at the scene where we have again Radiohead with the House of Cards. It's a really beautiful scene. But a question that I want to ask has to do about the soundtracks again that you are picking. And specifically because I remember at some point that I read one of your interviews where you were saying that for Call Me By Your Name specifically, that whenever there wasn't something to narrate with the actors, you would let Sufjan Stevens, for example, narrate the story for what was happening. So what is the importance that music soundtracks have to you, and how do you pick specifically the artists? Because even with Call Me By Your Name and the work that you did with Sufjan Stevens, if I pronounce his name right, was amazing. So yeah.
I had the luck to be able to, when I did Melissa P with Walter Fasano, the editor of that movie and of most of my movies, we had made the movie as a sort of like trip, like a voyage into the mind of Melissa's generation. So it was like, I don't know, there was like 45 songs of that generation playing in the movie. There was no score. And then the producer said no way, because that was very expensive. So we had to hire a composer. He made a soundtrack. I don't want to talk badly about anybody, but I wasn't very happy. So I promised myself never to be again in that position. So like I usually tend to work with the repertoire, like existing music. But also I love artists, so I like to invite people to join me in doing something. And in the case of Sufjan, that's the reason why. I loved him, and I thought it was, his melancholy was perfect for the melancholy of the movie. Also, like, I think that Sufjan's songs and music in general are cut from the fabric of a sense of loss and a sense of emotional displacement. And they are not, you can't label his music in any fashion or ways. And for me, Call Me By Your Name was not the movie that had to be labeled. So I felt that it was important to have an artist who was master in witnessing with his voice, in this case, this sense of misplacement and melancholy and loss, more than the identity politics of those characters, which I was totally uninterested on. And then you mentioned the scene where Fraser meets the character of the soldier played by Tom Mercier in We Are Who We Are, and there is, that was a tricky moment and a cheeky moment, because of course I love that song, but I played it on the radio as if they're listening. He and his girlfriend, they're listening to that album as a sort of like background sound to fuck. And then the kid arrives, and suddenly the sound of the music becomes even more meaningful, because it's so eerie and disturbing. As eerie and disturbing is that scene. But Tom never said anything about that, so we got away with murder.
Hello. I love the conversation about the dancing and the music, because I dance, and you're lucky because you saw Suspiria 2 weeks ago. I think it's like 2 years ago since I saw it. And I remember like the thump of Dakota Johnson's characters dancing, like the jump and like this thump on the wooden floor. And and my first question is this kind of sound that is not the soundtrack, but the how do you call it in cinema? Dialectical sound.
It's sound design.
Sound design. Is this your also creation, or is
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not mine and of my colleagues. Like when you make a movie, you recreate completely from scratch the sound.
Yeah. I remember I was trying to recreate that in my flat, and the neighbors downstairs didn't really appreciate it that much. But my other question, which I was thinking before, and it's kind of not formed, but I hope I can be eloquent. I was thinking if you could comment a little bit about the small
set design details that you have in your films. And most notably, I was thinking about In a Bigger Splash and in Call Me by Your Name. And in A Bigger Splash, sometimes some kind of details that kind of like denote the class and the privilege of the people around the characters. And by no means I'm saying that as like a criticism or trap or anything like that. It's just, I remember this scene with like this sizzly sunscreen. And it doesn't seem at all like a product placement. I think this is on very...
They gave us no money.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't. I
No,
can
because
see
like
that
I think
it's-
accurate,
I want you to
being accurate is important to me. Again, it might sound petty, but if you're not, I mean, I saw recently. Can I confess something? I saw for the first time a movie that I've never saw, which is All Against Eve. First time at the age
All
of 40.
About Eve.
All About Eve. Sorry.
Ah, yeah. Amazing.
First time. That's why I saw it first time. I was 49 when I saw it. One of the greatest movies ever made, right? In that movie, Margot Channing apartment has furniture by Jean Royer. Now, who knows design knows that Jean Royer is now the most expensive design you can buy everywhere in the world. And that all these like tacky pop stars, they have to have a piece of Jean Royer to show off. But how precise is of Mankiewicz to put Jean Royer from France in a New York apartment of a star of theater? Amazing. So like I think accuracy is very important to when it comes to the details you portray of your movies. Yeah.
I really like those details. I wanted to.
And as far as you don't get distracted by those details, right? Thank you.
Question here.
All right. First of all, I'd like to say that the way you express yourself is very pleasant to hear because there's a
Thank
lot of poetry in the way you speak. My question is not on a specific movie or specific project. It's more of a question of curiosity on how, as an artist, you approach the process of writing and ideation. Because I remember Jonah mentioned at the beginning of this masterclass that in all the years he's known you, you were always saying, one day I will make that film, one day we'll make that film. So how do you approach that creative process? How does ideation happens in your head, in your body, and how do you like put things on paper?
I remember when I think it was after Melissa P, and I was by myself in my apartment in Rome at the time, and I don't know, I had this kind of like association of ideas, and I had this image in my mind of an elegant woman walking into a vast villa. That was the beginning of the process that brought me to conceive the story of Here I Am Love, which I believe then accurately was about the loneliness and solitude of this woman in this environment.
So it starts with an image.
Yeah, like recently, I found in a garden something very mysterious. A fox dead. The fox was the remains of the fox were the head and the front legs, a piece of the body, and then a piece of the spine. And she was resting in a very like, how can I say, peaceful way, and there was no blood, but it was very gruesome at the same time. Now, the fox is an animal that is very dear to me for personal reasons, related also to a person that had a very significant role in my life. And this image, which is uncommon, right? You don't bump into a severed fox every day of your life. Actually, never. And no blood. Who killed the fox? Why the fox was there? What the fox wanted to tell me in relation to this person. And this is something that is triggering a process of thought that may lead to a story. It's really like, I grab what I get.
So once again, the importance of real life, as you've been
For sure.
saying before.
But I would say the importance of using real life to make films.
All right, makes sense. Thank you.
We have still some time.
Excuse me? I'm here.
Okay. Sorry.
Hello, and thank you for being here. It's a question about Call Me By Your Name again. I've watched the movie like 4 years ago, and something bugged me ever since, but not in the wrong way. The two main characters always had like sexual intercourses with women and stuff, and there was always this sexual tension between them, like with the beach and everything. And I was wondering, why don't we see them having sex? Because if I remember well, there's that scene where when they're going to bed, and then there's a pan to the window. And I was wondering if it was maybe to romanticize even more their relationship or something. I don't know.
I think that you don't see them having sex with anybody in particular graphically. I think the Call Me By Your Name, the way I approached it was to be an idyll. Idyll? And in a way, it's like it's the moment in which both finds the rose of the sublime in one another's gaze. So I think it wasn't about sex. Also, I thought it was. I mean, I'm very proud of the camera going toward the trees. I think it's a beautiful cinema moment. So I mean, I don't care that people says, why didn't show them? That's like, I recently read an interview to a great poet, which I paid homage in We Are Who We Are, Ocean Wong. And he was saying that Call Me By Your Name was chastised and in a way against the queer identity because it didn't show the sex. But honestly, come on, that's not what the movie's about. One day we'll make a very romping, grouchy and saucy and everything exposed gay sex scene, and I can promise you it's going to be the best ever made. And by the way, I started making a movie about a blowjob. You remember that,
yes,
right?
Of course.
You do too. So, come on, don't call me coy, or don't call me like, how can I say, the chastisizer or normative, because I'm not. Fucking hell, that's awful. And honestly, I don't care about this. It wasn't part of the movie. The movie was an idyll. It's all about the tenderness and the inevitable crush. Because it's about, this movie is not, it's not a gay love story. It is not. It is about a young boy really wanting to love and be loved by another young boy, only to realize that the summer ends and never comes back. And it's about repression, because Oliver is a repressed man, and it's about the brutality of dealing with the repression of the other when the other deals with you. So it's not, that's not the story. And I love Paul Vecchiali, for instance, right? We adore. So it's not about being coy at all. It's really that's not the movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. There was a question over there. Okay. No, okay, I didn't see you. Go ahead, please.
It's very beautiful, this trust of actors you speak of. And I mean, I'm sure every story or every project or every artist has its universe and every moment that you do it also. But I was wondering if there's I'm curious how maybe each, or if you have a ritual of how you work with actors before, the pre-work before you're in front of the camera?
I think a lot of it deals with me and them spending time together and knowing each other. I mean, I have the privilege of having worked with actors many times, so that we are now in good relationship. So that means there is a confidence and there is a knowledge of each other. I do not tend to do rehearsals much, even though I wish next to do something in that line, probably because I like to experiment. So why not? I did though theater. I directed theater, so theater is all about rehearsals. So it's, yeah, we'll see. There was the gentleman over there.
Yeah.
Oh, there is another gentlewoman.
I was wondering, are there other books that you like to interpret into movies? And also, could you sign my book at the end of the meeting?
Yes, I will send your
Thank you.
book for sure.
Thank you.
I think, yeah, there are many books I'd like to do. One is The Buddenbrook by Thomas Mann. I would love to do that. One other one was Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. I tried to make it. I wrote Brideshead Revisited. And I wrote it with Benjamin Walters, a young, brilliant writer, and it didn't happen. And there is a sublime book by a great French author called Philippe Forest that is titled L'Enfant Éternel, that it's really one of the best books I read. And that's something that, I mean, it's a very difficult book, and it's a very complicated story, but I'm saying it for the first time, but it's been like, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years that I wanted to make that. Maybe one day. The title is sublime.
Here, finally.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming. I was wondering, what's your opinion about virtual reality? And would you be interested in creating something or experimenting with this new medium?
I did 2 movies, two short films for the New York Times in virtual reality that were based on the work of artists that I did. It was very beautiful, very interesting to do that. And a little bit I had a bit headache because I was trying to understand what I was doing. Yeah, I think virtual reality is sublime. It's beautiful. Video game and virtual realities are things that I'm very compelled by.
Thank you. And I'll have to watch it.
I think you can find them. I think there is a gentleman over there.
Where are those? Yes, please.
Thank you for sharing your experience. I wanted to ask you how you approach editing. How much do you know going into a shoot? How you're going to edit?
This is a question for Marco. I think he should reply.
Yes, I saw your editor is here. Maybe I don't know would like to comment, but
I mean, let's have him say something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I just wanted to say that, well, from the work I've seen by you, it doesn't seem like you shoot much coverage. There's almost a precision, almost Bristolian precision in your shots in how you approach shooting. So I guess it has to do with how you edit as well. How much do you experiment in the editing room? Or
First of all, to be told that there is a Bristolian precision in my work is the greatest compliment. So thank you so much. You made my evening. No, I don't do coverage. I think coverage is really unchic. So I don't do that. Albarco wants to add something?
I really don't know, because it's a very pleasure to see the footage of Luca, and you suddenly see, you can see the movie in the footage and his idea, and I think it's quite automatic. it's incredible. I don't know, because it's important to let us talking the images of Luca and nothing else.
Thank you.
There was a question, yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
I was wondering, also have an editing question. What's your relationship with your editor, and how has it evolved throughout the years, like in terms of trust, letting go of ideas, or how much freedom do you give to your editor, and how painful it is for you, like this whole editing process, or is this a pleasure? Or
I think editing is the best part of the filmmaking experience for me. I love that. I don't know, freedom, maybe. We work together with Mark, also with Walter. Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's trust. It's beautiful because we can gossip about things in the darkness, and it's great because it's really like a real leisure time. And then the juxtaposition of things and to watch the result is fantastic. Also, you have to add to the process of editing not only the relationship with the editor, which is wonderful, but also with the musicians. Like with Tom York on Suspiria, it was beautiful to work with him, and Walter, and with Marco now, and with our composers. Is the process we're going through right now. It's fantastic. Often it depends. Sometimes you change completely from the script, from your original ideas. Sometimes you don't. It depends. It depends on the part of the movie. But I think, like a script is as important as the work of the set decorator, or like it's a tool. And so like, as far as you have a great script in your hands and great actors in your hands and great collaborators, you can all of them can contribute to make a great movie, hopefully. But if you believe in the script as the reason of the existence of the movie, I feel like sometimes then the movie doesn't go anywhere. So you need to change your mind. Yes, you do.
But since you are both here, how did the editing of the very last episode of We Are come together? Because when I saw that the first time, I mean, it was unbelievably beautiful. I mean, the different cuts with the sunrise coming up, them meeting, going back. So I mean, it felt that was a whole other level, even for your very high and demanding standards. So how did that specific moment, that moment of creation, come together? Because it felt really, I mean...
I think we edited the 8th episode in 5 days, 4 days, very quickly.
So that was very done on the spot.
I think that was really shot the way it was supposed to be. Yeah. We had the episode.
Am I allowed to say something that... The first time I met Marco, it was in Marrakesh, and
First time I met Jonah, it was 31 years ago.
That's not fair to give my age away like that.
Or mine.
And we met, and they were editing the series while going from the airport Casablanca to Marrakesh, and he was going, meet my editor, and they were. And he was carrying a laptop, and they were, oh no, do like this, like this.
He's doing the same thing now here. We drove from Milan with the laptop watching. But Marco, you say, Marco, come to Geneva, and we work in the car. He does, yes. And Christina, his girlfriend, is okay with that. Thank you, Christina.
No, it's just to say that this professional relationship is really something that is completely absorbing. It takes really a lot of...
I truly love editing, and I truly love my editors. Really. Respect to them.
So, if there aren't questions... Oh, yes, please.
Well, I mean, there is a non-professional one, and there are very professional ones. We mix them.
Okay, then we call it a night. Okay.
To jump back on the VR question, the VR topic, I just want to ask you this particular question to see your reaction. Have you been to the rec corner in the basement to see this project on two men experiencing sexual explorations, like
Here?
including
In the building? No, I haven't. I will go
Okay.
now then.
Okay.
I'll bring my mom.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, since I have the mic. So thank you for the masterclass. I have a question again on Call Me By Your Name. I was impressed by the movie. I think is one of the most touching in terms of how the relationship is shown. I mean, it's really intense. But at the same time, I was a bit disappointed by the way you portrayed the Italian context, let's say, the country, the background. Of course, it's just my thinking, but it's really radical, the way I loved the rest, so the core content of the movie, and the way I felt a bit disappointed by the portrayal of the country, which is the environment, the context, the background. So how did you come up with that choice? And maybe it was marginal, maybe it's really not important, maybe it's the idealized ambiance that you wanted to give to that story, or maybe not. Please tell me more about that. Thanks.
I felt I did a pretty good job with the landscape and the environment. I don't know, like, the book was set in Liguria, in front of Bordighera. The movie changed many times, incarnations, was supposed to be shot by many directors, among which James Ivory, who was going to set it in Sicily. And I decided to bring it to Crema in Lombardia, specifically because I love the environment. And I thought that countryside and the way in which there were a lot of streams of water and pools of water and like monuments scattered throughout this countryside, I felt that was really compelling, including being very linked to certain kind of images that were important to me, like Piala or Romer, or even the movie Les Roses Sauvages by Téchiné. I don't know. Are you referring possibly to the way in which Italians are portrayed in the movie? I don't know. Like I honestly don't know. I don't know what is a stereotype in regard to that. like the character of Mafalda, for instance, who played by Wanda Capriolo. I met Wanda. She was really biking. She was going from one village to another with her bike, and I was scouting, and I saw this wonderful lady, and I stopped her, and we became friends. And then I asked her to play Mafalda. So I think like she brings her own experience. I think every people in the movie are, I don't know, I really don't know. I'm sorry if that, I mean, I don't want to be defensive about that. I'm pretty happy with that, actually. So I don't know how to answer, because I'm sorry that I disappointed you, but at the end of the day, you felt compelled by the love story, so that's good.
So, thank you, Luca. Thank you for being so thorough, so eloquent, and so generous.
Thank you,
with our
Jonah.
questions, and thank especially the audience for being with you tonight. And
thank you very much.
Thank you to the festival and Danais.